So we're going to work through the moving average, weighting average concept, and the exponential moving average, and see how these are calculated. So you guys can see actually what's going on in the background. So we can calculate the moving average in two ways. The first way is probably a little bit tougher. What we can do is sum. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a moving average and weighting average and exponential for a 20-day period. So what we can do is sum 20 days. And the easiest way is when you're capturing this data, notice that as you're selecting the column, it'll tell you 20 rows in one column. So you'll see 20 R1. So that's the easiest way to identify you've captured 20 rows or 20 observations. What we'll then do is divide that by either the number of days. We could just divide this by 20, or we can divide by count over that same period. Now, hopefully you guys are recognizing this very quickly, saying, well, this is the long way around to calculating an average. So we just take the average over the past 20 days, and that's the moving average, or commonly known as the simple moving average. Why simple? Because it's just the simple average. Pretty self-explanatory. The next way is what's known as a weighting, and a weighting would essentially place more emphasis on certain days versus others. In this formula here, what I'm showing you is for our first day, we're weighting at 0.2, and then on the second day, a weighting of 0.15, and then 0.1, and then the last 17 days are weighted equally over the remaining amount. That is, all of the values have to add up to 1. So we'd simply calculate this as equal to our first price times 0.2 plus our second day F5 times 0.15 plus our third day F6 times 0.1. And so you can see what this is doing is it's putting a lot more weight on the more recent days, and those days that are further in the past, it's giving them less weighting. And then lastly, what we're going to do here is take the average of the remaining 17 days and then multiply those times the remaining amount, which is 0.55. And so you can see this weighting, what it's done is it's placed more emphasis on these last, or the more recent 3 days rather than the older data. Hence our weighting, we move from a moving of 3179 towards 3197, so significantly higher. The last method for calculating is exponential moving average, or sometimes referred to as exponentiated, but exponential moving average is the correct way to say it. This at first looks a little bit difficult, but it's actually not. P naught here stands for the most recent price, so that's going to be our 12/31/19 data, times what's known as a K value, and the K is just simply equal to the smooth, which is typically 2. I've never seen it really used otherwise, but some people will modify that, divided by the number of days. In this case, we're using 20, so n is equal to 20 plus 1. So what does that end up looking like? Well, here we have 20 days and a smooth value of 2, so we get a K value of 0.95. So what that's saying is, even though we're using 20 days of data, we're giving almost 10% of the value to the most recent price. Then, of course, the remaining 19, or actually 21 days, is going to only receive 90%. And you'll see how we get there. So again, to get our K or 1 minus K, or 1 minus smooth, let's change this to K just so it's clear. We just simply take 1 minus the K value. This moving average lag is just the prior day's moving average, or simple moving average, over that 20-day period. So what we're going to do to simplify this is we'll drag our moving all the way down, less 20, there we go. And so we're going to come back up here to the exponential. We're going to say it's simply equal to today's price times that K value, and we're going to hit F4 to lock it in, plus the moving average from the prior day plus the 1 minus K value. So I'm sure you guys are now recognizing, boy, this is pretty easy. Okay. We'll hit F4 to lock it in if we want to drag our formula, and there we go. Oops. That doesn't look quite right. There we go. There's the mistake. Okay. I was adding instead of multiplying. Okay, that's much better. So how does this K value affect the weighting of the exponential? Well, as you guys will recall from when we calculate MACD, we use the 12 and 26. And so what we're saying is, what's the exponential moving average over 12 days versus 26? And when we have that break, we see either buy signals or sell signals. So when we use a 12-day, we have a K value of 0.15, which is placing much more emphasis on the most recent price versus the 26-day. See here. All right. So the 26-day has more influence from the moving average of the past 26 days versus the most recent day relative to the 12. The 12 is more influenced by the most recent day versus the moving average from the previous 12 days. So that's understanding MACD right there. Also, some of you may see a different formula if you look this up online or in different textbooks. So simply the EMA is equal to the price times the K. That's this value right here where we remember it's the smooth 2 divided by n plus 1 times the moving average or simple moving average times 1 minus K. So we're just showing this equation right here a little bit more simplified. We can rearrange this where we flip the K and the P just for simplicity. And notice now it's plus, and what we've also done here is separate this out, where we have now MA times 1 minus MA times K. So all we're doing is expanding out MA times 1 minus K. Okay. So we now are left with K times P plus MA minus K times MA. Well, what you should notice right away is now we have K times P and K times MA, so we can rearrange. Now we have K times P minus K times MA plus MA. We can now simplify this portion right here. And now we're left with K times P minus, that is the price today, minus the lagged moving average over whatever period we're interested in, plus that moving average. So when you see the equation written in this format, it's just a different way to state the same thing as what you see up here. Okay, no different. It's just a manipulation of the formula. So as we drag these down, all of a sudden we have our exponential and weighted. We can graph these out if we want to see a comparison and start looking for changes. That is something like the MACD, where we see a change in, say, the a little bit of an error here. Cancel. Something going on there. But we can graph these out and start looking for crossings where we see maybe a moving, crossing a weighted, crossing the exponential as perhaps a buy or sell indicator. We could also use the simple moving average as a reference point and look at a gapping between the weighted and exponential. There's a bunch of different things we could come up with, but I just wanted you guys to see the different ways you can calculate that is the exponential moving average relative to the simple or just the moving average, and then get an idea of a weighted average. All right, I hope you guys try this on your own, test it, maybe come up with your own trading rules. I hope you find it pretty interesting. And remember, you can use moving averages, weighted averages, exponential moving averages, and you can apply these things to other indicators.